is Warriors Anonymous.
Well, as they say, hello darkness, my old friend. These losses, they sting a bit more, don't they, when you're having success? I got to say, having a loss to the understrength Panthers is probably not how you want to spend your Saturday evening, as was the case for myself, and I would say many other people as well. This is Warriors Anonymous. Welcome along, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. If you are new to the podcast, we are nobodies. We're the four nobodies who cover off all Warriors stuff. Obviously, we're a couple of nobodies short tonight from our usual lineup, or full strength lineup, should we say. But I've got myself, Jared, and Daniel on board to run through a few things. Bro, what was your reaction watching this stuff unfold on Saturday night?
Well, firstly, I guess we like the Panthers. We're a little bit under strength, but we might get the dub tonight. Watching Saturday, it's just a bunch of things conspired against us. Some out of our control, some probably in our control, and then, it just slowed it. It just died a slow death, I guess. And there's just a bunch of things that annoyed me and a bunch of things that, we just couldn't kick into gear as well. Yeah, a lot of factors. This is one of those games. I think you're going to get them. Let's not kind of cry too much about it, only if it becomes a pattern. So we need to nip that in the bud. But yeah, frustrating because it's just the Panthers and they've just been traveling shit, and you just want to knock the Panthers off as well. But hey, not to be done this time.
The longer they stay in the competition, right? Like, I mean, they're in the top 8 currently. The longer they stick around and the longer they stay alive as the season wears on, every other team's going to be looking over their shoulder like the old big bad wolf is back. But anyways, bro, let's start with a huddle now before we rip into some good quality venting, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, are we a better team away from home?
Yes, hard.
Hard? Oof.
Super hard. I don't know. I mean, I get it, and look, people are going to bemoan the fact that I've just kind of taken a massive dump on our spiritual home. But and Joe Maharaja, the brother, we just don't seem to be able to get our best football on at home. And is it the conditions? This the 4 or 5 degrees cooler than it is in Sydney, and the 10-15 degrees cooler than it is compared to being in Queensland. I don't know. There just seems to be a little bit more of a spring in our step when we're over the other side of the ditch. So that's playing a factor. Actually, there was a screenshot as well that they must have drone footage over the top, and I saw the lights and I was like, shit, it's not very bright. Like there were actually some really dark patches there as well. And I was thinking, it felt like Tuesday night training down at Houston Park. Like, just a couple of floodlights. Houston Park references. So Johnsonville, Rugby Club, the home of the Hawks. Howell Park, very much like Mount Smart, spiritual home. But yeah, I don't know. It's our record speaks for itself. And then in the last few years, although it wasn't raining, we've just struggled in those evening games at home. We look slow. If it's a bit slippy, we get dominated in the middle. So there's just forming some kind of pattern, and I just don't like it.
It's interesting because the weather conditions were pretty much perfect during the day in the lead up to kickoff and all that. And I always remember you referencing Nico Hines. He's going to play a good game depending on how greasy his hair is. And it's almost like the reverse.
The
reverse for Mount Smart, right?
But first of all, that reference, unfortunately for Nico, he's not having the greatest run at the moment. So I think we can that reference doesn't kind of fit anymore. But you're right. It is, like something about maybe there's not enough breeze to kind of get rid of that dew. Maybe they should bring more games to Wellington. Hold on. It's the pitch is always dry because it's blowing a gale. There is something about the kind of greasier it is, the more challenging we find it.
Yeah, because even in the games that we do win at Mount Smart this year, they've kind of been a little bit, sometimes they're a bit funky. Some of the wins that we have there are just, not the easiest to watch sometimes, a little bit messy, etc., etc. But anyways, are you thinking maybe when the new stadium opens in Christchurch with a roof on it, maybe?
I mean,
it's One New Zealand Stadium, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, One New Zealand Stadium. Jason Paris will probably get the boys down there. They obviously signed a 3-year deal, so they've got a couple more years to play Anzac Day games down there. It's going to be a world-class facility as well. I mean, the only issue is it's in Canterbury. Sorry, Canterbury Warriors fans. Am I? You got their Super Rugby title for the 49,000th time. Don't worry about it. But look, I guess a world-class facility like that. If not the Warriors, then perhaps the 20th NRL team or the 19th NRL team or whatever the new expansion club post the Perth Reds could be a team that frequents that particular stadium.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we would be up to 20 by that point, which is, man, it's taking it right back to 1995, the year of the South Queensland Crushers and whatnot.
South Queensland Crushers. Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Man. Bro, Webby spoke after the game in regards to the side, saying that 100% they were not complacent. They went out there, if anything, probably tried a little bit too hard. So was the fact that this was a Penrith team missing a lot of stars, was this more of a trap for the fans than it was for the players?
I mean, I got a bit of both, bit of column A, column B. I don't fully agree that I don't think they were complacent, because he did also say that they let themselves down in their kind of effort areas, like their kick chase. And the one thing that, I don't know, annoyed me, and he referenced the fact that we let them out of their end reasonably well, after what we like to do. And, there's Penrith ball, right? Kick to the corner, grind them in, and then, I guess get them kicking inside their half and, I guess winning the territory battle. But we couldn't contain them. And one man in particular we couldn't contain, which was Isaac Tango coming out of dummy half. Like, we just couldn't get to him. No marker. He beat the first marker every time. It was the most frustrating thing ever. So part of me thinks there's a little bit of that kind of, and we fell into a trap last year, I think, after the 23 hype, come back, and I think we fell into the trap that the kind of 1%ers that would just do themselves. And I'm not saying, and not Webby, who am I to question Webby, right? He's the Messiah. I think if you didn't get your kick chase right and you didn't kind of pin them down, obviously, hats off to Tangor, very athletic, fast, and ability to scoot out of dummy half. But those two things for me meant that, we went on as well, and they just kind of cascaded. And then we just, we were always losing the arm wrestle.
And we made Milky Tom Jenkins looking like he was going to lace up a boot for State of Origin 3 the way he was playing. I was like, oh, shit, here we go. Classic Warriors trick, isn't it? We managed to pump certain guys up who are unheralded. But anyways, bro, we suffered a couple of unfortunate injuries. Marata went off with the HIA, which he didn't pass the test, so he couldn't come back on. Hurt his ankle in nefarious circumstances. I don't know if that's the right word to use. I just wanted to use it because it came to the top of my head. And also Metcalf. Calf was running around on one calf. Well, I mean, both calves were fine, but one of the quads was not firing. Bro, like, it's tough to win, really, if you've got two guys out on the field for long stints who can't even run properly.
Yeah. And I think that unfortunately meant that once we kind of got a little bit of parity, we just didn't have enough energy in the back end of the game. And it told, right, like that spell where I think they just kind of ran riot and scored, felt like, 3 tries within quick succession, piled on points, kind of took the game away from us where, the season so far, we've probably been strong in those periods, especially in the last few weeks. We've been our strongest period. I think I said it a few times, has been that kind of from 40-minute to 60-minute mark. We were kind of really dominated in the game as well. So, it's always going to be tough. I mean, what you can say, though, is, we could put a team together. That's the strength of Webby's style and his team selection. He had enough coverage in positions, but you just run out of gas. We'll run out of energy to go chase a game when you're down, down 10, 12. I mean, once it got out to about, I think it was out to about 18 at one stage, right? It was like, 16. I was like, fuck this. But, just wasn't close. We weren't close enough. So, that's unfortunate. But what really grinds my goat.
You're grinding your goat, eh? Okay, yeah, good.
Bro, just need to put the goats in there and grind them the fuck up, man. Like, so tell me in a game of sport, when a player receives a 2-week ban for a particular illegal infringement, and in this case, would you call it a hip drop? Hip array drop. The net result is we get no penalty. There's no potential kind of advantage in game, and actually we disadvantage ourselves because we actually had the same player run through a gap where the injured player standing and score a try. So, I mean, I think it's again, going back to my column A and column B, maybe even column C approach, is that I think definitely on the game and how you manage that. Like, can't the bunker intervene sooner as well? If they've put that in a report, like 5 minutes later, like, like you need to look at that sooner and make that call. Yep. Rugby does, hey, look, first time actually I'll give a shout out to rugby. They actually make that call on the fly a bit quicker. They'll go, it might be a few phases, but they'll say, hey, look, check out foul play as well. So that annoys me. The fact that obviously the punishment served post the game. So the team that received the punishment during the game doesn't get anything out of it. And not even a penalty in this case. And then part of me thinks kind of what's Dallin thinking, right? Like, and I know we don't want players to fake injuries and just go down to get things reviewed as well. And we don't want a constant game like that, but you gotta think, man, this is serious as well. How has this happened? At least to the point where it became a liability. So regardless if it was an illegal act, he actually became a liability and cost us a 6-pointer as well, which again, in tight games at that stage, that's a gimme as well. So that whole play, and then obviously the net result is he's out for 3 to 5 weeks, which, I guess it's kind of divided fans because I think there's a few calling for some potential change anyway for Dallin. But I mean, I'm sort of the guy to keep backing him, given what he can do. But yeah, that whole play just really, really annoyed me.
Yeah, I got to ask a question. Were we too slow to adjust to that? I know we'd lost Nukore already, but Dallin, you could clearly see for a number of sets he was not going to be able to do shit all. So should we have bumped someone wider earlier than what we did?
Yeah, I guess so. That's got to be something to say, on ground in field, take control of that as well. Do you have to hide him so he kind of gets back? Or, and by hiding him, you don't put him he doesn't kind of float in the centres, but were they hiding him so they didn't get stripped out wide? I don't know. I mean, typically you hide someone, but they've got their legs. If that makes sense. Maybe it's a shoulder or something else that they're carrying as well. But when you're in, outside back play, you can't really get hidden unless you're in the middle, right? Like, so I don't know what's going on. Obviously, clearly, and to Panthers' credit, not all teams exploit that, though, and they're just so clinical and good like that. Regardless who's out there, they just spotted it straight away. So yeah, perhaps didn't adjust on the fly. Maybe the word didn't get out for him to come off. But I think it all stems from the fact that actually, I just think about some of the more crafty players. They would have just felt the contact and gone, this needs to be looked at. Yeah. But
I think what frustrated me is that, you mentioned that we have got a team of 17 with good versatility across the park. And we've got a guy like Temaire who can, cover a lot of different spots, probably about half a dozen positions. And that frustrated me that we didn't get onto that quicker. And we got shown up. And I think it had been shown earlier in that set as well when they actually made their way, massive line break down the left where, Dallin wasn't there obviously because he couldn't run. I don't know how that sort of theory works, but yeah. Anyways, I just felt a bit disappointed from the coaching staff on that perspective. But
they're just late to picking that up, and I think there's always a resistance to change an outside back, given it's one of those positions you have to cover, and we always cover, right, and we have been, and it's grateful to have a Cape Wā and a Marata, probably less so Marata these days. He's pushing that way rather than that way. But Kate Wā seems to be that guy. But yeah, that's why, as you said, that's why we carried Temaire as well. So hopefully they review that and they make changes around how they manage that situation.
Now, looking ahead, bro, obviously Metcalf was really hobbled in that second half especially. Still, had a good try assist. That was nice. But in terms of his fitness, what are we thinking? Like, is there like sort of a threshold where, if he's less than, say, 85% fit, are we better served to rest him, considering we've got to buy straight after the next games, a couple of weeks rest?
Yeah, I think you take a cautious approach. You're going to have to, right? Like, combination of, and I know it was a cork, so they tend to think it generally, it's got no structural issue, and it will be how it kind of pulls up in the week as well. But part of me, well, two things, man. Part of me thinks about, keeping him fit. There's plenty more football to go this season as well. We're obviously gunning for postseason footy as well. And obviously the injuries he's had previously, you don't want something to create a bigger issue as well. Behind that, you've got Tanner Boyd, who, I'm not saying replace him with Tanner Boyd when, both fit. We know he's leading the Daily M's and he's been one of the best in the game, but actually with the strength of a quality player behind him, you would give Webby a lot more confidence. And I think he's spoken to that recently. He talked about why they are so much better, the top side so much better, because Tanner Boyd and that team have really pushed them in opposed sessions. And he reckons he's one of the best trainers. He's the best trainer in the club as well. So big raps. So yeah, if it's 50-50, or if it was a must-win, must-play scenario, yes. But like we've got plenty of games to go. It's in the midpoint of the season. Yeah, if he's not 100, if he's not even 85%, 90%, don't risk him.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely, I'd go cautious as well. It's funny when you mentioned about the best trainer there. Automatically thought back to Onslow College, and the best trainer at Onslow was old Andrew Webber, the old mate. Anyways, bro, we've got obviously Capewell is coming back. The squad's been named. How big of an inclusion will he be?
Oh, huge! I think we saw that the lack of impact we had, or I guess we saw when he wasn't in that team last week, we lost a little bit of our probably those effort areas, those 1%ers, those things that he does really well, and he showed in Origin as well at the best stage what he's all about. I think he's well and truly kind of cemented his standing within the Warriors fandom as well. People weren't sure. They just thought, there's another guy's come over to kind of end his career and clip a good salary as well. But he's playing awesome. And yeah, just more confidence, especially for our young forwards as well, and our young back rowers, to have a guy like Kate Wire back as well. So yeah, stoked to have him, and stoked to have him back in the back row, knowing that we don't necessarily have to put him into the centres. He can cover a job there. But that obviously means that we've got a Rocco back, which is awesome.
Well, that's the thing. I'm really interested in that, because for all Rocco, he seems to he hasn't had a great run of luck with injuries, and been kind of waiting for him to come back and put on a full performance, I guess. So I find that an intriguing selection, having him in there. I guess I probably won't fully believe it until we see him run out at the starter's whistle. So yeah, Capewell there in the second row. Has dropped to the bench. The form of one of the other second rowers over the weekend, Jacob Laban, bro. Run us through your thoughts on what you saw from that young fella.
Oh, I think he's been really consistent at both sides of the ball. Defensively, been really strong. I really love his lines, his running. He's a tough man to put down as well. His carry's been really strong. But yeah, I think it's just rewards, and it's the probably style of back row that you could probably get more, like that kind of close to 80-minute type performance. And I don't know if he will play 80, but I think what we talked about a few weeks ago when, after Lecker's kind of barnstorming start as well, but that kind of grind of making him play 80 minutes, you just nullify his kind of explosiveness, I think. I feel like he gets less chance to be super explosive. But if we can bottle him up a bit and get him playing sort of the back end of the game, back end of the half as well, we should really get more out of him as well in terms of his ability to do those freakish things as well. But there's something just with Lecker that is kind of for me is, I don't know, maybe it's a run style or something that either is working but then working against him. And he seems to get caught in like a wrestle with the opposing defender where it's borderline like 6 again. Like it is borderline. They never give it. I don't think they've ever given him one. But it really is like slowing that play the ball down quite a lot. So he's obviously not going to be able to get the ball out. Hopefully, if he's fresh, he can get a ball out as well, because that's what we want. But the other part is he's not sort of a one to kind of find the ground, find his front, and play that way as well. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not no expert on this shit, man. But I wonder if that's something which, maybe looked at, is it better to hit and drop, generate a fast play of the ball, or look to hit and free that arm for an offload, kind of caught in a little bit of a, like a slugging match, but all that's doing is just tying them up a bit and then getting the defense reset. So, I'm just intrigued because I think like Vaeamonga, he has a little bit of that too, but I think sometimes he can run so hard and he can find his front and he can barnstorm. And then you've got Aaron Clark, who typically he will either get post-contact meters, brush that defender off, either get offload off, or his abilities busted through the tackle. He found his front, and then he can play the ball as well. So, yeah, just don't think it's generating like a a quick play the ball. It's kind of slowing down the attack.
I tell you what, one guy who was quietly been playing really well over the last month or so, that is the guy on the wing called Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. He has been just generating like a lot of what you're saying there, you know, getting to his front really quickly and getting those quick play the balls on the top of, you know, really good yardage and doing the, you know, change of direction that he can do. He also seems to almost every game for the last month be able to do a good run and pick us up a penalty as well off the back of it. So I'm really excited to see Roger, you know, just starting to really turn it up quietly. On the
it's
other
good for
wing,
Roger. It's good for Roger because he doesn't need to be the guy, right?
yes.
But he can do those little things. Like there's one play where I think the ball, and I love this in the situations where the ball kind of bounces funny or the pickup's not 100% clean. He then turns it into like off his right, off his left. And then, you know, within the space of like 30 centimeters, he's beaten 2 defenders and he's straight through, right? Like, so yeah, those are micro skills that he obviously possessed for his career, right? Like, yeah, he still has the ability to get that done. And that, as you're right, in that role, you know, it's generating quick play the balls. And if not, it's, you know, it's generating a penalty because of, you know, they're clearly having to hold him down. So, yeah, it's such a good asset. And it's like a 1-2 punch with Chance. My gosh. It feels like he's just got a new set of legs or something, eh? Like he is just, like he's gallivanting. He is galloping into the line as well. And again, I think it's off the back of the good work Roger's doing, for example, to kind of get that momentum. So that next carry, he can just be steaming onto it. So, yeah, I mean, that early on was really good, but obviously, yeah, just fell apart towards the back end of the game.
Yeah, it really did. Now, obviously, we've mentioned Chance, we mentioned Roger. One of the major points about the upcoming game against the Broncos is the inclusion of a guy in the number 2 jersey, who in these video highlights is wearing number 5, and that is Edward KOSI. Now, I know a lot of people will probably be a little bit worried about the fact that Ed is up into the, you know, the top team.
Edward Scissorhands.
So I just wanted to. That's right. I'll tell you what. We'll get to it in a second as well. This is obviously the highlights from the game against the Panthers over the weekend. A nice try there. Good finishing off. Similar sort of one coming up here. I think you might like this one if you haven't seen it already. They shift it out to him, and then he gets the he gets the arm up in the air. That's
and a point.
Exactly. So I enjoyed seeing that. He was a nice little bit of sticky hands here as well. Sticky, hey, look at that. So yeah, nice. Ed has been he's been doing a job in the cup team for sure. Look at this. Whoop, up he goes. Grabs that one. Offload.
He looks so big against the cup teams.
Yeah, someone commented last week, like, you know, is he like a bloody one of those creator players? He looks massive compared to everyone else.
Huge. That's what we want to see from new Ed, my bro. Like, that's what we want to see as well. We know he's got it in him. You know, at times we've criticised his effort, times we've criticised his hands and aerial ability. Need I remind Warriors fans, one of the Anzac Day games, the one I think they put 72 on us, was probably the worst. Well, I was going to say the worst performance by a Warrior that I've ever seen, but no, Kane Evans takes the cake against the Titans. But you can redeem it. I'm looking forward to seeing Ed out there. And actually, physically, something about having that big body. We just talked about the Chance Roger. Ed, I mean, that's just going to be awesome. You know, if they can get that going, that could cause some damage to the old horsies.
Yeah, that's right. Big game coming up at, well, I'm claiming it as a home stadium now, Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. And that's mainly off the back of the great work being done by Richard Morgan and the Warrior Nation supporters group. If you haven't checked them out, get on Facebook and get on board, because they have got a big one coming up, another big one. Jeez, they've had some absolute belters, and I think there's a few more to come this season as well. Pre-game meetup this Saturday over at the Lord Alfred Hotel, which is, look, I'm just going to say it. The Caxton Hotel gets all the headlines. It's overrated. Lord Alfred is where it's at. So that's where the Warriors whānau is going to be. There'll be a full bloody march down the street as well before the game. So if you're in Brisbane, man, get on board. Listen out for the drum. Look out for Richie. He's about as tall as Ed KOSI, so you'll be able to spot him pretty easily. But
these games are exciting. Like, as Warriors fans, these are the games we've always loved, eh? Like, we've always loved, you know, and we've had our fair share of ding-dong battles. We've had fair share of good, dominant wins, and then, you know, we've been, you know, beaten up as well. But, yeah, yeah, I love this fixture, and I love this fixture over at Suncorp as well.
absolutely.
So there's a different vibe to it.
Yes, the Warriors, what is it, their third home ground? There's Mount Smart. You might be able to include a couple of Sydney grounds in there as well, to be fair. So the number of home games is actually expanding. We might need to redo the draw just based on what it's actually going to be like. But bro, this could be an exciting game. You kind of think back to years gone by. You think back to like Sean's epic try against them on Suncorp. You think back to the Ivan Tuimavave over the back, or he got the try off Sione Famuina. You think of, I think, didn't old Rusty Packer do the old pissy on the field at Suncorp as well? Great memories.
Suncorp, you might be watering the in-goal area or halfway.
That's right. And also the Broncos had a belter of a game against the Sharkies as well, where they came back from a mile down. So, bro, what are you expecting from this game? Because it really could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, can I just also reference a couple of the big kind of stoushes the Warriors have had? I mean, one was at Mount Smart, but that was the one of all time when poor Casey Maguire, he is kind of push and shove. So I don't think he even push and shove. Next thing you know, Monty's got him. Whack. And then after that, Owen comes in and gets him as well. Whack. There's that. There was also...
He was punching like he was Elvis on that one, bro. He was like, what?
I mean, I think Casey Maguire goes down to as the most punched person in a 2-minute window in rugby league ever as well.
For no real reason.
For no real reason.
It wasn't even him.
I think it was that classic, like, who are we going to scrap? Oh, this guy. Made a mistaken identity. You got misid'd by Monty Beetham. Also, I do always remember, and this must have been Suncorp, when Webke and Campion had a set to, and Campion dropped him with an uppercut and just set him down.
I think that was Mount Smart as well. Was it when Webke's in green? Those weird bloody teal. Yeah. Yeah, that was a Mount Smart as well.
But Webke was a legend of the game and a big enforcer, and he just dropped him. So what do we expect? That would be great to see some scraps. I'm only kidding. There's a lot of pushing shoves and
handbags.
It got quite handbaggy early on with McLean.
Dell. Yeah, that's right. Dell,
the young man, old man.
That's right.
Uncle and nephew could possibly be too. Yeah, I'm expecting. That there's a slight resurgence. The Reece Walsh swagger is back, and it makes him a better team, better attacking team. Yeah, but I don't know. I think they still have a soft spot, and I think we should get a rev up as well. So yeah, I mean, naturally, in records and how we're travelling, we should get the win. But yeah, I'm really, really, really looking forward to it because I just love this challenge. And a big shout out to Greg Dyer, fuck you, and your Broncos.
Yes, the yearly acknowledgement. Love that, bro. Love that. I got to say that it almost feels as though whenever you play against any of the Queensland teams now, Broncos, Titans, Cowboys, and Dolphins to a certain extent, that all of those teams will let you actually play a fair amount of footy. You'll have a real good crack. They're not necessarily going to, choke you into submission like other teams possibly could. So yeah, we'll get our fair share of chances. It's just a matter of being able to take them, and also, I think on the flip side, being able to really knuckle down and shut them down, which I felt like we did a really good job against the Panthers in the first half. I felt like Chan saved about 3 or 4 tries by himself in that first 40. The second half, it became a bit unstuck to defend our kicks and so on. But I think probably that's maybe an area of focus for us to look at going into this game. But bro, what's your thoughts on scoreline? If you were to jump on the old TAB and pick a scoreline, a margin, and result, who are you picking? Yeah,
I mean, I've got the Wires, got the boys. Yeah, we know that the Broncos have points in them both ways. They can score a lot, they can concede a lot. But, I think we will sort of tighten up, I think. Not as in be less expensive, but I think, we showed with the Sharks, who, to be fair, were poor in that second half, but we'd battered them, so I guess, we'll do that. So I'm thinking, somewhere in the vicinity of 26-22 to us. I think fans, hold on to your hats. It'll be a classic kind of game, ebbs and flows, but I think we'll get the chocolates.
And just having a quick look on the just Google weather to see what's happening in Brisbane. It looks dry all the way through up until Saturday and including Saturday as well. So hopefully that holds and we get a nice sort of, hang on, hold the phone. It's got a little sun logo, but then the icons change from 2 p.m. to a little bit of 20% rain. So
plenty of time.
We'll see what that means. It could mean, a bit of rain in Brisbane can be an absolute deluge. So, bro, any more thoughts to share before we jump on out of here for this episode?
I just have one little random thought. It's more just the context of the quintessential 7, and we're obviously talking about Metcalf and his, two thoughts to traverse that around Metcalf, the potential offer they put forward to him as well. And actually just thinking now that there seems to be a favouring for, we all went through the game managing half. But I still think there's an element of game managing, but I reckon that teams are also going, you can game manage a bit, but we actually want running halves. And I think we're starting to see this sort of shift back to these like out and out sort of run first players. It got me thinking about the fact that the Dogs are looking to shop Sexton around, despite that, Sexton leading them at the moment, doing really, really well. And I think that's to allow the Lockie Galvin to kind of step into that role. We have it with Luke. Jerome Hughes obviously has been that guy. He's developed a game management, but he's not a classic game management. He's developed it, but his run first game is elite as well. So it just got me thinking that we're in a good position with a half like Luke as well. Kind of, we were banging on her about 3 or 4 years ago, all those senior halves, they were just awesome game managers, good boots, all sorts as well. But you need that running ability. The other thing too, and I guess throw back to you, man, is I saw a post where we have 29 signed players on the top 30. Obviously got the news that Dellen's out for 3 to 5 weeks too. I throw to you, there is some scuttlebutt, whether that's founded or not, but there was some random leak that Cobbo has a Kiwi girlfriend and that they might make their way down here because he got lowballed with his offer or his kind of performance pay or whatever it may be. Not necessarily Cobbo, but do you think the Warriors would consider, if there was a player on the market as an outside back for the rest of the season, do you think the Warriors would consider that?
I think they'd have to be honest. I think with Dallin, like that's been estimated a 4 to 6 week type of timeline for his return. So that gets us deep into sort of into the early 20s, around 22, 23 potentially even more. So it's starting to get quite close to the finals. And I'm not sure we did bring in Morgan Harper from Para or Manly or whichever club he'd just come from last, probably Para. I don't know if he was brought in for, that sort of coverage type of role, centre, outside back. But I still feel as though if someone of that ability, even if it's just for this year, get him, take him in and just work him into the rotation for whatever weeks we need him. Yeah, it could be an interesting one. I've always been a big fan of a guy like Cobbo. I know his effort's a little bit, questionable at times. But yeah, I think they'd definitely have to. Well, I think they'd be negligent if they didn't just keep their eyes and ears open as to what is going on.
You don't want to. And then we were gone are the days of would take anyone going. There was a period like the COVID years where people were popping up left, right, and centre, and we were just like, yeah. Oh no, but yeah, Matt Lodge. But I think as the position we're in, and to kind of to not be confident you've got the squad to cover in critical areas. You'll have players, don't get me wrong, but when you're chasing finals as well, and you've got a good run in, you'd make that opportunity. And we saw that with some of the teams that signed some short-term deals into the playoffs a few years ago, right? That's smart business. I guess it's very common in the likes of the NBA as well. NFL make those trades. Yeah, I'd love for us to be open to it, but again, I think at the same stage it would have to be a player of quality as well. I think Ali, we're not sure. I sort of got that ankle issue. If he was fit, then you would say, well, you've got out of those 3 centres, you've got cover. Pompey plays wing as well, so you probably get away with that. But yeah, if he's not fit and then you go and someone else goes down, then yeah, I think we're pretty skinny in that area.
Absolutely. I was just thinking we need to start up a Warriors Broncos bingo card. and just have items like, a punch up, someone pissing on the field, a 10-meter forward pass. There must be all sorts of options that we can throw in that and see how many we can tick off this week at Suncorp.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we're going to get a good showing too. We might even hear the Warriors chant in the background. I think the bingo card.
I think there's every chance that we will. I know Richie, you will. He'll have the drum going, bro, and he'll have the crowd going too. So I'm starting to get excited now. Oh man, it's a long time to wait till Saturday, but bring it on, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to head along to warriorsanonymous.co.nz to grab yourself some sweet merch. Whoop whoop whoop. And enjoying the mission as we push on for our push it title glory. Well, not us personally, but you know what I mean. Daniel, thanks for joining me, bro. We'll catch you next week.
La cucaracha, ya no puede caminar.